Jean Woo Beck sat in the corner booth of Mama Jean's soul food restaurant. The place was nicer than most establishments in Compton. Clean floors, functioning air conditioning, booths that didn't wobble. There was a reason it had survived 15 years in this neighborhood. It was neutral ground. A place where drug lords, gang leaders, and businessmen of questionable legality could eat without worrying about bullets interrupting their meals. Mama Jean enforced the peace with an iron fist and a shotgun she kept behind the counter. Nobody violated the truce. Jean Woo's 4 bodyguards dispersed throughout the restaurant, pretending to be regular customers while maintaining tactical positions. At 71, he'd survived this long by never trusting neutral ground completely. His contact had cancelled the meeting 10 minutes ago. Jean Woo should have left. But the smell from the kitchen was exceptional, and he was hungry, and something told him to stay. The waitress appeared with water and a menu. She was young, late 20s, with deep brown skin and natural black hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Pretty in an understated way, but that wasn't what caught Jean Woo's attention. It was how she moved. Graceful but careful. Like someone used to navigating dangerous spaces. "Welcome to Mama Jean's," she said, her Haitian accent soft but unmistakable. "I'm Clara. What can I get you?" Jean Woo studied her for a moment longer than was polite. She met his gaze steadily, which was unusual. Most people looked away from his eyes within seconds. Something about them made people uncomfortable, like looking at a predator and recognizing you were prey. But Clara didn't flinch. "Interesting. What do you recommend?" he asked in his accented English. "Depends what you like. The fried chicken is our specialty. Oxtails if you want something traditional. Jerk chicken if you want heat." She gestured toward the kitchen. "Everything's made fresh. My grandmother's recipes mostly." "Your grandmother is from Haiti?" Surprise flickered across her face. "Yes." "How did you know?" "Your accent. The mention of oxtails. The particular way you pronounced jerk." Jean Woo smiled slightly. "I've spent time in Port-au-Prince. I recognize the cadence." "Oh." Clara's professional mask slipped just slightly, revealing something that might have been homesickness. "She raised me there until I was 16. Been in LA 3 years now." "Do you cook the food here?" "Most of it, yeah. Mama Jean owns the place but her arthritis is bad. I run the kitchen during lunch and dinner rush." Jean Woo filed that information away. "Then I'll have the oxtails. And whatever sides you think pair best. Rice and beans, fried plantains, and a side of pickles." Clara wrote it down. "You'll love it. I promise." She walked away, and Jean Woo found himself watching her move through the restaurant. There was something there. Something he couldn't quite name but recognized from decades of reading people. She was running from something. Hiding. Playing invisible. He understood that. He'd spent his youth doing the same thing. His phone buzzed. Text from his contact canceling the meeting. Last-minute emergency. Apologies. They'd reschedule. Jean Woo should have left. Should have told his men to move out, found another restaurant, continued with his day. But he was hungry, and Clara had promised the oxtails would be worth it, and something about her pulled at him in ways he hadn't felt in decades. So he stayed. The food arrived 20 minutes later. Clara set it down with the kind of care that suggested pride in her work. "Let me know what you think." Jean Woo took a bite. The flavors hit his tongue in perfect layers. Scotch bonnet heat balanced with thyme and garlic. Meat so tender it fell apart at the touch of his fork. Rice perfectly steamed, beans seasoned with herbs he recognized from Caribbean cuisine. This wasn't restaurant food. This was art. "Exceptional," he said honestly. Clara's smile transformed her face from pretty to beautiful. "Thank you." My grandmother would be happy to hear that. You should be cooking in a Michelin restaurant. Should be doing a lot of things. The smile faded. But you need papers for that. Work permits. Legal status. Things I don't have. She'd said too much. Jean Wu saw the moment she realized it, saw her expression close down, professional mask slamming back into place. Anyway, enjoy your meal. Let me know if you need anything. She was turning away when the front door exploded inward. The man who entered was big, 6'3" of muscle gone soft around the edges, with the particular kind of aggression that suggested chemical enhancement. His eyes were wild, scanning the restaurant until they locked on Clara. There you are, bitch. Clara went white. Rogers, please. Not here. Not here? Rogers stalked toward her, and Jean Wu noted how everyone else in the restaurant was suddenly very interested in their food. This wasn't the first time this had happened. You think you can ignore my calls? Block my number? You're mine, Clara. Jean Wu's bodyguards were already moving, but he raised one hand, stopping them. Wait. Assess. Understand the situation before intervening. Clara backed up, hands raised placatingly. Rogers, you need to leave. We broke up 3 months ago. You need to move on. Move on? Rogers laughed, the sound unhinged. You don't get to tell me what to do. You're mine until I say different. His fist swung before Clara could dodge. Jean Wu moved. 71 years old, but decades of training and muscle memory didn't care about age. He was out of his booth and across the restaurant before Rogers's second punch connected, catching the bigger man's wrist mid-swing with a grip that made bones grind. Rogers howled, trying to pull free. Jean Wu twisted, using Rogers's momentum against him, and suddenly the bigger man was face down on the floor with Jean Wu's knee in his spine. I believe, Jean Wu said in that deadly calm voice that had preceded countless deaths, the lady asked you to leave. Rogers struggled. Jean Wu applied more pressure, and something in Rogers's shoulder popped wetly. The scream was gratifying. Who the hell are you? Rogers gasped when he could speak. Someone who doesn't appreciate watching women get assaulted during lunch. Jean Wu glanced at Clara, who stood frozen, hand pressed to her mouth. Does this man bother you regularly? She nodded mutely. I see. Jean Wu looked down at Rogers with the expression that had made grown men reconsider their life choices. You have 2 options. Leave now and never approach this woman again. Or I break every bone in your hand so thoroughly you'll never make a fist for the rest of your life. You're dead, old man. Wrong choice. Jean Wu grabbed Rogers's right hand, fingers wrapping around his palm with surgical precision. Then he twisted. The breaks were methodical. Controlled. Every metacarpal, every phalange, systematically shattered in ways that would heal poorly even with medical intervention. Rogers's screaming brought Mama Jean running from the kitchen, spatula raised like a weapon. She took one look at the scene and her eyes went wide. Clara, baby, what's happening? It's okay, Mama Jean, Clara said, voice shaking. This gentleman is just helping Rogers understand boundaries. Jean Wu released the broken hand. Rogers curled around it, sobbing. You fucking psycho. You broke my hand. I warned you. Jean Wu stood, brushing invisible dirt from his suit. Now leave. If I see you near this restaurant again, I'll break something more important than your hand. Rogers stumbled to his feet, cradling his ruined hand, face twisted with pain and rage. You don't know who you're fucking with. Miguel owns this neighborhood. He'll kill you for this. Miguel? Jean Wu's eyebrow raised. The drug dealer operating out of the warehouse on Avalon Boulevard? The one with delusions of importance because he controls 3 blocks of territory? Rogers's face went pale. How do you know about Miguel? I make it my business to know about gnats before I step on them. Jin Woo's smile was cold. Tell Miguel that Jin Woo Beck sends his regards. If he has complaints about my treatment of you, he's welcome to raise them personally. The name clearly meant something. Rogers's remaining color drained completely. You're the Silver Wolf. Am I? How observant. Jin Woo gestured toward the door. Now get out before I decide your legs need breaking too. Rogers fled, stumbling through the door and disappearing into the Compton afternoon. The restaurant stayed silent for a long moment. Then Jin Woo turned to Clara, who was staring at him with an expression mixing terror and something else. Gratitude maybe. Or recognition. Are you hurt? He asked gently. Clara shook her head. Her hands were trembling. Has he done this before? She nodded. How many times? I don't know. Too numerous to remember. He's my ex. We broke up 3 months ago, but he won't accept it. He keeps showing up. Getting aggressive. Her voice cracked. Nobody ever stopped him before. Nobody will have to again. Jin Woo pulled out his phone, typed rapidly in Korean. My people will ensure he understands the consequences of bothering you. Your people? Clara's eyes widened. You really are the Silver Wolf. I thought Rogers was just talking crazy. I'm afraid not. Jin Woo studied her carefully. You know the name? Everyone in Compton knows the name. Korean crime lord. Controls half the illegal imports on the West Coast. Kills people who cross him. She took a shaky breath. What are you doing in Mama Jean's? Eating exceptional oxtails. Jin Woo gestured to his abandoned booth. Or I was, until rudely interrupted. Before we delve into how this incident transformed into an obsession that would consume them both, please make sure you're subscribed to this channel and that notification bell is on. This story of violence, protection, and a love that defied every rule gets more intriguing with every minute. Let's continue. Mama Jean had found her voice. Mr. Beck, sir, thank you for helping Clara. But if Rogers told Miguel about this, there's going to be trouble. Miguel doesn't like people interfering in his territory. Miguel's territory. Jin Woo's voice dripped with contempt. Interesting. I was under the impression Compton belonged to whoever was strong enough to hold it. Has that changed recently? Miguel runs drugs through here. Protection rackets. Girls. Mama Jean's hands twisted her apron. He's been sniffing around Clara for months. Rogers works for him. I think that's the real reason Rogers won't leave her alone. Miguel wants her. Jin Woo's expression went very still. Very cold. Want her for what purpose? What do you think? Mama Jean's voice was bitter. Pretty young thing like Clara? Illegal status so she can't go to police? Miguel's been trying to recruit her for his stable since she showed up in the neighborhood. The temperature in the restaurant seemed to drop 10 degrees. Is this true? Jin Woo asked Clara. She nodded miserably. Miguel's been sending Rogers to pressure me. Says I owe him protection money for working in his territory. Says I can pay cash or pay other ways. Her voice went small. I've been avoiding him. Hiding. Staying invisible. But it's getting harder. Jin Woo made a decision. Pack your things. Clara blinked. What? Whatever belongings you have. Pack them. You're coming with me. I can't just leave. You can. You will. Jin Woo's voice held absolute authority. Miguel knows about you now. Knows someone protected you from his man Rogers. He'll escalate. Come for you with more men and worse intentions. Your options are to leave with me now or wait to be dragged into Miguel's operation later. Choose quickly. Clara looked at Mama Jean, who nodded sadly. He's right, baby. Miguel won't let this go. You need to disappear for a while. I don't even know you, Clara whispered to Jean Wu. You know I stopped Rogers when no one else would. You'll get to know me better, but right now you need to be safe. You know I'm offering you protection when you have no other options. Jean Wu extended his hand. Come with me, Clara. Let me keep you safe. She stared at his hand. Then at the door where Rogers had fled. Then back at Jean Wu's face. Okay, she said finally. But I want answers. Real ones. About who you are and what you want from me. You'll have them. I promise you brutal honesty about exactly who and what I am. Jean Wu's hand stayed extended. Do we have an agreement? Clara took his hand. The touch sent electricity up Jean Wu's arm, making his breath catch. From her expression, she felt it too. That impossible recognition. That sense of finding something you didn't know you'd lost. Get your things, he said softly. My men will ensure nobody follows us. 20 minutes later, Clara emerged from the back of the restaurant with a battered backpack and a cardboard box. Everything she owned, apparently. It made Jean Wu's chest tight in ways he didn't understand. His Mercedes waited outside, bodyguards positioned around it in defensive formation. Jean Wu helped Clara into the back seat, then slid in beside her. Where are we going? She asked. My apartment in Century City. 45 minutes from here. Completely secure. Miguel's reach doesn't extend to high-rises with private security. The car pulled into traffic. They'd gone maybe 10 blocks when the first SUV appeared in the rearview mirror. We have a tail, Park, Jean Wu's head bodyguard, said in Korean from the front seat. How many vehicles? 2. No, 3. Black Escalades. Heavily occupied based on how they're riding. Jean Wu switched to English for Clara's benefit. Miguel moves faster than expected. Clara twisted to look out the back window. Oh God. That's his fleet. He's coming for me. He's coming for both of us now. Jean Wu pulled out his phone. But he's about to learn an important lesson about overconfidence. He made 3 calls in rapid Korean. By the time they hit the freeway, 4 additional vehicles had materialized around them. Jean Wu's people, heavily armed, forming a protective convoy. The Escalades tried to keep up. Failed. Jean Wu's driver was former Korean military, trained in evasive maneuvers and high-speed protection driving. Within 15 minutes, they'd lost the pursuit entirely. But Jean Wu knew this wasn't over. Miguel had been challenged. Made to look weak in front of his organization. Men like that didn't let insults stand. They arrived at Jean Wu's building, a gleaming high-rise in Century City with security that rivaled government installations. Clara followed him into the private elevator, still clutching her backpack, eyes wide. This is where you live? She asked as they rose toward the penthouse. One of several properties. I maintain residences in Seoul, Tokyo, Los Angeles, and New York. Jean Wu watched numbers climb. This one is adequate for business visits. The elevator opened directly into his apartment. 12,000 square feet of minimalist luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Los Angeles. Art that probably belonged in museums. Furniture that cost more than cars. Clara stood in the entry, visibly overwhelmed. The guest room is down that hall, Jean Wu pointed. Private bathroom. I'll have clothes brought up in your size. Food as well. Anything you need, ask. Why are you doing this? Clara's voice was small. You don't know me. You have no reason to help me. I have several reasons. Jean Wu crossed to the bar, poured himself whiskey. First, I don't appreciate men like Miguel thinking they own women. Second, I stopped Rogers, which made me involved whether I intended to be. Third, you're talented at your craft and that talent is being wasted in a kitchen that barely functions. Fourth. He paused. Fourth, when our hands touched, I felt something I haven't felt in decades. Recognition. Like finding something I didn't know I'd lost. Clara's breath caught. I felt it too. I know. I saw it in your eyes. Jinwoo took a drink. I'm 71 years old, Clara. I've built an empire on violence and strategy. I've killed more people than I remember. I'm not a good man. But I'm a man who protects what's his. And the moment I broke Rogers's hand, you became mine. Whether you agree to that or not is your choice. But Miguel will have to go through me to get to you. You're insane. Probably. Does that frighten you? Clara thought about it. It should. But no. You frighten me less than Miguel. Less than Rogers. Less than living another day wondering when someone's going to force me into something I can't escape. Then you'll stay. We'll discuss terms. Expectations. What happens next? Jinwoo gestured toward the guest room. For now, rest. You're safe here. I promise. Clara nodded slowly, then walked toward the guest room, glancing back once with an expression Jinwoo couldn't quite read. When she was gone, he pulled out his phone and made a call. Find me everything on Miguel Reyes, he said in Korean. Operations. Associates. Locations. Weaknesses. I want to know what he had for breakfast and who he's planning to kill tomorrow. Because Jinwoo Beck didn't make idle threats. And he'd just promised Clara safety. That meant Miguel Reyes had to die. It was that simple. The attack came at 3 a.m. Jinwoo woke to his phone's emergency alert, the tone that meant his building security had been breached. He was out of bed instantly, gun in hand, moving toward Clara's room. She was already awake, sitting up in bed, eyes wide with fear. Stay here, Jinwoo ordered. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone except me. What's happening? Miguel's people are in the building. Jinwoo moved to the living room where his bodyguards were already positioned, weapons drawn. Park spoke rapidly in Korean. 12 men came up through the service elevator. Overwhelmed building security. They're 2 floors below us now. How did they get past our people downstairs? We're not sure. Someone talked, or Miguel has better intelligence than we thought. Jinwoo's expression went cold. Set up defensive positions. They breach this apartment, we kill them all. No prisoners. I want to send Miguel a message written in his men's blood. His team moved with military precision, creating kill zones at entry points. Jinwoo took position near Clara's hallway, ensuring anyone reaching her would have to go through him first. The wait was excruciating. Seconds stretching into minutes. Then the front door exploded inward. What followed was violence Jinwoo had perfected over 7 decades. Controlled. Methodical. Absolutely lethal. Miguel's men came in hard, expecting an old man and maybe 1 or 2 guards. Instead, they walked into a killbox manned by professionals who trained for exactly this scenario. The firefight lasted 90 seconds. When it ended, 8 of Miguel's men were dead, 3 wounded, 1 fled back down the stairs. Jinwoo stood among the bodies, not a scratch on him, gun still raised. Park. Secure the wounded. I want answers about how they found us. His phone rang. Unknown number. Jinwoo answered. Yes? You got my message then. Miguel's voice was heavily accented, West Coast Mexican mixed with street slang. That was just a taste, old man. I got 100 more where that came from. Do you? Jin Woo stepped over a corpse to look out the window. Because I just killed 8 of your men. Which, if my intelligence is correct, represents a significant portion of your enforcers. How many more can you afford to lose before your own people start questioning whether you can protect them? Silence. Then, you're protecting the girl. Why? Because I choose to. Because men like you don't get to claim ownership of women just because you control a few blocks of Los Angeles. She owes me. Worked in my territory. Used my protection. Protection she never requested, and you're here trying to force it on her. You're protecting the girl. Why? Because I can. Because men like you don't get to claim ownership of women. This isn't over, Beck. Eventually, you'll leave. Go back to Korea. When you do, she's mine. You misunderstand. I don't run from problems. I eliminate them. You have 24 hours to leave Los Angeles. If you're still here tomorrow night, I'll dismantle your entire operation. You threatening me? I'm making you a promise. Jin Woo hung up. Park appeared. Sir, police will be here soon. Handle it. This was a home invasion. We defended ourselves. Jin Woo walked to Clara's door, knocked gently. It's me. It's over. The door opened. Clara stood there, pale but composed. I heard gunshots. Miguel's men attacked. They failed. Jin Woo holstered his weapon. Pack your things. We're leaving Los Angeles tonight. Leaving for where? Seoul. I have a flight in 4 hours. You're coming with me. I can't just leave the country. You can and you will. Miguel won't stop. The only way to keep you safe is to remove you from his reach entirely. Jin Woo's hand cupped her face gently. Come to Seoul with me, Clara. What about my legal status? I can't get on an international flight. My plane. Private charter. No customs. Jin Woo's thumb traced her cheekbone. Trust me. Clara looked into his eyes, searching. What do you want from me? Really? Everything. Your time. Your talent. Your company. Eventually, if you'll give it, your heart. His honesty was brutal. I'm 71. I don't have time for games. I want you in my life permanently. This is insane. Yes. I barely know you. You'll know me better. I promise complete transparency. Clara took a shaky breath. If I go to Seoul, I can't come back. Not legally. Not yet. But I have lawyers. Give me 6 months and I'll have you legal status anywhere you want. Jin Woo lowered his hand. Stay here and die, or come with me and live. She closed her eyes. Okay. Seoul. But I want a contract. Written terms. Done. My lawyers will have it ready before we board. They left Los Angeles as dawn broke. Jin Woo's private jet sat at a small airport in Van Nuys. Clara climbed aboard with her backpack, looking like a refugee. 14 hours to Seoul, Jin Woo said. When you wake up, your life begins again. Clara slept for most of the flight. Jin Woo worked, making arrangements for Miguel's destruction. By the time they landed at Incheon, Jin Woo had arranged for 3 organizations to move against Miguel simultaneously. The DEA would receive anonymous tips. The Mexican cartels he'd been skimming from would receive proof. Jin Woo's own people would destroy his infrastructure. Within 72 hours, Miguel Reyes would cease to exist. The drive from Incheon to Seoul took 40 minutes. Clara stared out the window at the gleaming city. Welcome home, Jin Woo said as they approached his estate in Hanam-dong. This is home. Our home. If you'll accept it. They approached the security gates. Jin Woo's instincts screamed warning. He'd learned to trust those instincts over 71 years. "Park," he said sharply in Korean. "Stop the car. Something's wrong." Too late. The small explosion came from the left, a shaped charge designed to disable rather than kill. The Mercedes flipped, rolling twice before landing upside down. Jin Woo's world went black. He woke to pain and the smell of gasoline. His vision swam, but training kicked in. Assess. Evaluate. Act. The car was upside down. Clara hung unconscious in her seatbelt beside him. His bodyguards in the front seat weren't moving. Outside, voices speaking Korean. Not his people. Assassination attempt. Jin Woo's hand went to his ankle holster, finding his backup weapon still secured. He released his seatbelt carefully, dropped to the roof, then reached for Clara. She moaned as he shook her. "Clara. Wake up. Now." Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused. "What happened?" "We were attacked. I need you to stay quiet and do exactly what I say. Can you manage that?" She nodded, clarity returning to her gaze. Jin Woo got her seatbelt released, helped her down carefully. Then he checked the front seat. Park was breathing but unconscious. The driver was dead, neck broken in the crash. Out the window, Jin Woo whispered. "Low crawl to the trees. Don't make noise." He pushed Clara through first, then followed, gun in hand. They made it maybe 10 feet before someone shouted in Korean. Jin Woo spun, fired 3 shots, dropped 2 men before they could react. But there were more. 5, 6, emerging from positions around the drive. Professional hit. Well planned. Someone knew his route, his schedule, his security protocols. Someone inside his organization had betrayed him. "Run!" Jin Woo shouted at Clara, laying down covering fire. She ran. Jin Woo followed, moving backward, shooting anyone who tried to pursue. But he was 71, and the crash had done damage. His left leg wasn't working properly. Pain screamed through his ribs with every breath. They made it to the estate's perimeter wall before Jin Woo went down. A bullet caught him in the left shoulder, spinning him around. He hit the ground hard, gun skittering away. Footsteps approaching. 2 men speaking Korean, discussing whether to kill him now or take him alive for questioning. Then Clara appeared, holding Jin Woo's guns in both hands, stance all wrong but determination fierce. "Get away from him," she said in English. The assassins laughed. One raised his weapon. Clara fired. The first shot caught the laughing man in the throat. The second hit another in the chest. She emptied the magazine in controlled bursts, technique terrible but effectiveness undeniable. When it clicked empty, 2 men were down. Clara dropped beside Jin Woo, hands shaking. "Oh God. Oh God, I just killed people. You saved my life." Jin Woo grabbed her arm. "Help me up. We need to move before they regroup." She got him upright, supporting his weight, and they stumbled through a gap in the wall into the neighboring property's garden. Jin Woo made a phone call with bloody fingers, speaking rapid Korean. "Help's coming. 3 minutes." Clara lowered him behind a decorative boulder. "You're bleeding badly." Shoulder wounds bleed impressively but aren't usually fatal. Jin Woo coughed and tasted blood. "Internal injuries are more concerning." "Don't talk like that. If I die, take the phone. Call the first number in recent history. Tell them to protect you. He'll honor that." "You're not dying." "Probably not. But if I do, promise me you'll." Clara kissed him hard and desperately. Tasting of blood and fear and something that felt like the beginning of love. "You're not dying," she repeated against his lips. You promised to protect me. I'm holding you to that. Jin Woo would have laughed if it didn't hurt so much. You're demanding. I like that. Gunfire erupted again. But this time it was different. Heavier caliber. More disciplined. Jin Woo's people had arrived. The firefight lasted 2 minutes. When it ended, 6 assassins were dead, Jin Woo was bleeding out, and Clara was holding his hand, as letting go would kill him. Park appeared, face grim. Sir, an ambulance is coming. Who betrayed me? Don't know yet. But we'll find them. Jin Woo's vision was graying at the edges. Clara comes with me. Everywhere. She doesn't leave my sight until this is resolved. Understood. And Park? Find who did this. When you do, make them regret being born. With pleasure, sir. The ambulance arrived. EMTs loaded Jin Woo onto a stretcher. Clara refused to let go of his hand, climbing into the ambulance with him. I've got you, she whispered. Jin Woo's last conscious thought before darkness took him was that he'd been wrong about one thing. He'd thought he was rescuing Clara. Turns out, she was rescuing him too. The surgery took 6 hours. Jin Woo woke in a private hospital room that looked more like a hotel suite, machines beeping steadily, pain a distant throb thanks to excellent pharmaceuticals. Clara sat in the chair beside his bed, still wearing clothes stained with his blood, eyes red from crying. You're awake, she said, relief flooding her features. Apparently. Jin Woo's voice was rough. How bad? Bullet hit your shoulder. Clean through. Missed the bone but tore some muscle. You also have 3 broken ribs, a concussion, and internal bruising. Doctors say you'll recover fully with physical therapy. How long was I out? 8 hours. Park's been here. Your lawyers. About 50 men with guns who all look like they want to murder someone. They probably do. Jin Woo tried to sit up, winced. Help me. Clara adjusted the bed, then perched on the edge, taking his hand. Park walked into the room carrying a file. He bowed before handing the file to Beck. We found the traitor, sir, he said. It was the head of building security. Guy named Song. He's been feeding information to a rival organization for a few months now. The attack was ordered by someone named Choi Tae-min. Apparently, you killed his brother 10 years ago, and he's been planning revenge ever since. Ah. The Choi family. I'd forgotten about them. Jin Woo closed the file before handing it back to Park, who nodded and left the room. What happened to Song? He's being handled as we speak. Jin Woo squeezed his hand. Meaning Song is currently being tortured somewhere for information. Jin Woo saw Clara's expression. Does that bother you? It should. But it doesn't? He tried to kill you. Tried to kill me. I'm having trouble finding sympathy for him. Clara looked at their joined hands. I killed 2 people yesterday. I should feel guilty, but I just feel relieved. That we're alive and they're not. That's survival instinct. It's healthy. Is it? Because I don't feel healthy. I feel like I've crossed a line I can't come back from. Jin Woo tugged her closer. Come here. She climbed carefully into the hospital bed beside him, mindful of his injuries. Jin Woo wrapped his good arm around her, and Clara buried her face in his chest. You saved my life, he said quietly. Killed people who would have killed us both. That's not a line, Clara. That's strength. That's choosing survival over victimhood. I'm proud of you. You're proud I killed people? I'm proud you fought back. That you didn't freeze. That when faced with impossible choices, you chose to protect us both. He kissed her hair. I told you that you were mine. You proved it yesterday. You're not just someone I'm protecting. You're my partner. My equal. The woman who killed to keep me alive. Clara lifted her head to look at him. What happens now? Now we heal. Then I deal with Choi Tae-min and his entire organization. Then we build the life I promised you. Jin-woo cupped her face. And somewhere in all that, I convince you to marry me. You haven't even asked me on a proper date yet. We've been shot at together. I'd say that supersedes dating. Clara's laugh was watery. You're impossible. I'm direct. There's a difference. Jin-woo's thumb traced her cheekbone, careful of the bruise forming there from the crash. I'm 71 years old, Clara. I woke up from surgery realizing I could have died without telling you something important. What? That in 71 years, I've never felt what I felt watching you defend me with my own gun. Pride. Fear. Love. His voice roughened. I'm in love with you. Have been since you served me oxtails and smiled like you'd given me a gift. I know it's too soon. I know it's inappropriate. I know I should wait for some socially acceptable timeline. But I don't have time to waste. So I'm telling you now, while I'm still high on pain medication and you can't run away. I love you, Clara Moreau. Tears spilled down Clara's cheeks. You're on drugs. You don't know what you're saying. I'm on drugs and I know exactly what I'm saying. Ask me again tomorrow when I'm sober and I'll tell you the same thing. Jin-woo. You don't have to say it back. I'm not demanding reciprocation. But I needed you to know. I need you to understand why I'm going to eliminate every threat to you. Why I'm going to burn down Choi's organization and anyone who helped him. Why I'll spend every resource I have keeping you safe. His forehead pressed to hers. Because you're mine. And I protect what's mine with everything I am. Clara kissed him softly, carefully, mindful of his injuries. I think I love you too. Which is insane because we've known each other for 3 days. But I felt it yesterday when you went down. Felt like if you died, something essential would die with you. 3 days or 3 years, it doesn't matter. When you know, you know. Is that a Korean saying? It's a universal truth. Jin-woo smiled despite the pain. Now tell me what Park said about Choi. Clara's expression sobered. He operates out of Busan. Controls shipping and smuggling through the port there. Has maybe 200 men under him. Park says he's been consolidating power for years, waiting for the right moment to move against you. And he thought I was vulnerable because I brought you home. Thought love was a weakness to exploit. Isn't it? Not the way I practice it. Jin-woo's smile turned predatory. Love is what makes me more dangerous, not less. Because now I have something to protect. Someone to avenge if they're harmed. Choi made a critical error in judgment. He should have left us alone. What are you going to do? What I've always done when threatened. Overwhelming violence applied with surgical precision until the threat ceases to exist. A knock at the door interrupted them. Park entered, bowing slightly to Jin-woo. Sir. Song talked before he died. Choi has a safe house in Gangnam. Heavily fortified. Choi's there now, waiting to confirm your death before moving against your organization. How many men are protecting him? 20. Maybe 25. Adequate security for most threats. Jin-woo tried to sit up further, winced. Not adequate for me. Sir, you're in no condition to lead an assault. I'm in perfect condition to watch while you lead it. I want Choi alive. Understand? Alive and undamaged enough to answer questions. Understood. Park hesitated. Sir, with respect, this could be a trap. Choi might be expecting retaliation. Of course it's a trap. But we're walking into it anyway because Choi needs to learn an important lesson about the consequences of coming after what's mine. Jin-woo looked at Clara. You'll stay here. Under guard. Park will leave his best men to protect you. No. Clara's voice was firm. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. It's too dangerous. More dangerous than being alone in a hospital while your enemies know you're vulnerable. More dangerous than sitting here wondering if you're going to die. Clara's jaw set in the stubborn line Jin-woo was beginning to recognize. You said I was your partner. You're equal. Partners don't get left behind. Clara. You can argue with me or you can accept that I'm coming. Either way, we're wasting time. Park cleared his throat. Sir, she has a point. Keeping her close might be safer than leaving her here with reduced security. Jin-woo wanted to argue. Wanted to lock Clara in this room where she'd be safe. But he also understood her logic. Scattering his forces weakened both positions. And there was something to be said for keeping her where he could see her. Fine. But you stay in the car. Behind bulletproof glass. You don't move, you don't fight, you don't take risks. Clear. Crystal. And Clara? Jin-woo caught her hand. If something goes wrong, you run. Don't try to save me. Just run and call the number I gave you. Promise me. I promise to survive, Clara said carefully. That's the best you're getting. Jin-woo would have laughed if his ribs didn't hurt so much. Stubborn woman. You wouldn't want me any other way. True. They left the hospital 2 hours later, against medical advice, with Jin-woo's shoulder bandaged and his ribs taped. Park had assembled a force of 30 men, all armed with automatic weapons and body armor. Clara sat beside Jin-woo in the armored Mercedes, watching Seoul's nighttime streets blur past. This is really happening. We're really going to attack someone's house. Safe house. There's a distinction. Is there? Safe houses are temporary. Houses are permanent. Attacking permanent residences has different legal implications. You're joking about legal implications while planning to assault a building with 30 armed men. I can multitask. Jin-woo's hand found hers. Are you frightened? Terrified. Good. Fear keeps you alert. He brought her hand to his lips. But you're safe with me. I promise. The safe house was in an upscale Gangnam neighborhood, disguised as a normal luxury apartment building. Park had already scouted it, identified entry points, mapped security. Choi's on the top floor, Park explained, pointing at a tablet showing building schematics. Guards on every level. Cameras at all entrances. Reinforced door on the penthouse. He's paranoid but not paranoid enough. How do we breach? Fast and overwhelming. Hit multiple entrances simultaneously. Push up all stairwells at once. Overwhelm their defensive positions before they can coordinate. Park looked at Jin-woo. Sir, you should really stay in the vehicle. Your injuries are irrelevant. I'm going in. Jin-woo ignored Clara's sharp intake of breath. I need Choi to see my face when he realizes he failed. Need him to understand the cost of threatening me. Jin-woo, please, Clara whispered. You can barely stand. I can stand well enough to watch Choi beg for mercy. He cupped her face. Stay here. Park will leave 5 men with you. If anything goes wrong, they'll get you out. Understood? Clara nodded miserably. Jin-woo kissed her once, hard, then climbed out of the Mercedes. Every movement sent pain through his ribs, but he'd survived worse. He'd been shot before, stabbed, beaten within an inch of his life on 3 separate occasions. Pain was temporary. Reputation was permanent. And Choi Tae-min needed to learn that attacking Jin Woo Baek carried consequences. The assault was textbook perfect. Park's team hit all entrances at 2 a.m. exactly, flashbangs preceding them, overwhelming Choi's guards before they could mount effective resistance. Jin Woo followed the main team up the central stairwell, weapon in hand despite his injuries. They cleared each floor methodically. Choi's men fought back but were outgunned, outmaneuvered, outclassed. By the time they reached the penthouse, 15 of Choi's guards were dead, 8 wounded, 2 had fled. The reinforced door to Choi's apartment yielded to shaped charges that Park's demolition expert placed with artistic precision. Jin Woo walked through the smoking doorway into a luxury apartment decorated with the kind of tacky ostentation that marked new money. Choi Tae-min stood in the center of his living room, hands raised, trying to project confidence his shaking voice betrayed. Jin Woo Baek. I heard you were dead. You heard wrong. Jin Woo gestured for Park's men to secure Choi. They cable-tied his hands behind his back, forced him to his knees. Your assassins failed. Your insider is dead. Your safe house is breached. Your organization is about to be dismantled piece by piece. Do you understand what's happening, Choi? You're making a mistake. I have powerful allies. They'll kill. Jin Woo backhanded him. Despite the pain it sent through his injured shoulder, the satisfaction was worth it. Your allies abandoned you the moment you failed to kill me. I've spent the last 8 hours making calls. Explaining to everyone who matters that you're a liability. A failure. Someone who couldn't even execute a simple assassination despite months of planning. Choi spat blood. You'll kill my brother. Your brother tried to steal from me 10 years ago. I killed him for it. He died quickly because I was feeling merciful. You won't be so lucky. You can't kill me. There will be retaliation. My people will. Your people are currently being arrested or killed by my people. I've dismantled your entire organization in the time it took you to fail at murder. Jin Woo crouched painfully to Choi's level. But I'm not going to kill you, Choi. That would be too merciful. Instead, I'm going to ruin you. Strip everything you've built. Leave you alive but broken. A warning to anyone else who thinks attacking me is a viable strategy. Please, Choi whispered. I'll give you anything. I don't want anything you have. I just want you to suffer. Jin Woo stood, gestured to Park. Take him to the warehouse. Make sure he lives through the interrogation. I want every name of everyone who helped him. Every contact. Every ally. Then destroy them all. Yes, sir. They dragged Choi away, his pleas fading as they hauled him down the stairs. Jin Woo stood in the ruined penthouse, adrenaline fading, pain rushing back with vengeance. His shoulder was bleeding through the bandages. His ribs felt like they were grinding together. His vision swam slightly. Sir? One of Park's men appeared at his elbow. You should sit down. You're bleeding again. I'm fine. Sir, with respect, you're going into shock. Let me get the medic. Jin Woo waved him off, but the room was definitely spinning now. Maybe he'd overdone it. Maybe getting shot and then immediately attacking a fortified position wasn't his smartest strategic choice. He made it to the Mercedes before his legs gave out. Clara was out of the car instantly, catching him before he hit the pavement. Jin Woo. Oh God, you're bleeding everywhere. Just the shoulder. It's fine. It's not fine. You stubborn, impossible man. She was crying now, holding him up through sheer determination. You're gonna bleed to death proving a point. I'm not going to bleed to death. You better not. Because if you die, I'm going to kill you myself. Jin Woo laughed despite the pain. I love you. You're delirious. I'm lucid. And I love you. Have I mentioned that recently? You mentioned it in the hospital. While on drugs. This doesn't count either because you're clearly in shock. Clara was applying pressure to his shoulder, her hands steady despite the tears streaming down her face. Park. Get the medic. Now. The medic arrived, started working on Jin Woo's shoulder while Park drove them back to the hospital at illegal speeds. You did it, Clara said quietly, holding Jin Woo's hand while the medic worked. Choi's done. The threat's eliminated. For now. There's always another threat. That's the life I live. Then I'll learn to live it too. Clara's grip tightened. Because I meant what I said earlier. I think I love you. And I'm not losing you to some revenge plot or assassination attempt or your own stubborn refusal to stay in bed when you're injured. Jin Woo's smile was weak but genuine. Demanding and bossy. Definitely my type. You don't have a type. You're 71. I do now. Haitian chef who kills to protect me and yells when I take unnecessary risks. Very specific type. Despite everything, Clara laughed. You're impossible. I'm in love. There's a difference. 3 months after the assassination attempt, Jin Woo found Clara in the kitchen one evening, experimenting with a new dessert that combined Korean rice cakes with Haitian sweet potato. I have something for you. Clara turned, wiping flour from her hands. What? Jin Woo knelt. Right there on the kitchen floor, he pulled out a velvet box, opened it to reveal a ring. Diamond center stone flanked by 2 emeralds. The emeralds match your eyes in certain light, Jin Woo said. And the diamond represents how precious you are. His voice was steady despite the emotion in his eyes. Clara Moreau, I'm 71 years old. I don't have time for long courtships or playing games. I know what I want. I want you. In my life, in my home, in my bed. I want to wake up next to you and fall asleep knowing you're safe. I want to build a future together, however much time I have left. Clara's eyes filled with tears. Marry me, Jin Woo said simply. Not because you need papers or protection. Marry me because I love you and you love me and life is too short to waste on fear. Yes, Clara whispered. Then louder, yes. 1,000 times yes. Jin Woo slid the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, then stood and pulled her into his arms. You're sure? You understand what you're agreeing to? I'm agreeing to you. All of you. The danger, the love, the impossible age gap, Clara kissed him fiercely. I'm choosing you, Jin Woo Baek. Forever. They married 2 months later in a ceremony that blended both their cultures. Traditional Korean elements mixed with Haitian touches, creating something uniquely theirs. The ceremony was exquisite. Tears streamed down his face as Clara walked toward him in a white gown with gold embroidery, her natural hair styled elegantly with flowers. You're beautiful, is all he could say as they kissed in front of everyone. The reception was legendary. Clara had catered it herself, creating a menu that told their story through food. Korean and Haitian flavors dancing together, creating something new. 4 months later, Clara stood in their bathroom, staring at 2 pink lines on a pregnancy test. Pregnant. At 29. With a 72-year-old crime lord's child. She found him in his office, on a call. He took one look at her face and ended the conversation mid-sentence. What's wrong? Clara held up the test. Jin Woo froze. Stared at the 2 lines. Looked at Clara. Back at the test. You're pregnant, he said slowly, like testing the words. I'm pregnant. With our child. We're having a baby. Jin Woo's face crumpled. He pulled her into his arms and sobbed, shoulders shaking with the force of his emotion. I love you, he kept saying. I love you so much. Thank you. Thank you for this. At 7 months, they learned they were having a girl. Amélie Marie Beck was born on a spring morning. 8 pounds, healthy lungs, thick black hair and her father's dark eyes. Jean Wu held her for the first time and completely fell apart. Sat in the hospital chair with his tiny daughter against his chest and wept like his heart was breaking open. "She's perfect," he kept saying. "Look at her. She's perfect. How did we make something so perfect?" Clara, exhausted and radiant in her hospital bed, smiled. "I did most of the work." Mrs. Chan arrived with flowers and tears, speaking rapid Korean blessings over the baby. Jean Wu's business associates sent expensive gifts. But none of it mattered as much as the three of them together. 2 weeks later, they brought Amélie home to the estate in Hanam-dong. The nursery was perfect, decorated with elements from both cultures, ready to welcome their daughter. Clara stood at the window, holding Amélie, looking out at Seoul's glittering skyline. Jean Wu came up behind her, wrapped his arms around both of them. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For saying yes in that restaurant. For coming to Seoul. For surviving everything we've survived. For giving me Amélie. For giving me a reason to want to live forever even though I can't." His chin rested on top of her head. "For loving me despite every reason not to." Clara leaned back against him. "Thank you for breaking Rogers's hand." Jean Wu laughed softly. "That's what you're thanking me for? It's where everything started. You saw someone being hurt and you stopped it. You didn't have to. You could have walked away. But you didn't." They stood there in the nursery, the three of them, while Seoul sparkled below. A family built from violence and chance. A love story that started with broken bones and became something neither could have imagined. The old man and the young woman who'd saved each other. And their daughter, who represented everything impossible made real. "I love you," Clara whispered. "I love you too," Jean Wu replied. "Both of you. More than I knew I could love anything." They stayed there until Amélie fell back asleep. And standing in that nursery, holding his wife and daughter, Jean Wu Beck knew that every violent thing he'd done, every dark choice he'd made, every year of loneliness he'd endured, had been worth it. Because it had led him here. To this moment. To this family. To this love. And that was everything. The end. Please support the channel by hitting the like and subscribe button. Until we meet again. Let love lead.